I've now been 3 years out of that, and I'm in my next round of companies. I don't necessarily suggest you do it the way I do. I was sort of hedging my bets in this, iffy economy. So I have pretty far diversified myself. One company I started called Valcor is in the offshore oil business. We actually, as my settlement with Dockwise, made every attempt in the world to buy one of their subsidiaries. And one of the other biggest lessons I've learned in here is financing and public financing is a nightmare. I wasted 1.5 years of my life trying to get what should have been the easiest thing in the world financed. It was a company with 23 years history. We were buying it at 4 times its EBITDA, which 6 to 8 is normal for the industry. And I had a chunk of my own money to put in. After going to 65 different firms, we finally ended up doing this an entirely different way. I also got into to green technology, and is what I'm primarily doing these days, something that relates to air purification, which I can explain a little bit later. And I also, for whatever crazy reason, decided to meddle in biotechnology, and I have a company that does stem cell research and has current treatment in clinical trials for liver disease, first one to ever show any kind of improvement in liver function, ever. Unfortunately, it's horribly managed. I've had to fire 3 rounds of people in it, and we still aren't out of the woods. So, out of all this, kind of summarizing whatever I would give my advice, some of the major thing for an entrepreneur in my mind is you have to know what you're getting into. From the first thing is you have to have the confidence to put yourself out there. And you can make a business plan or you can do whatever, but kind of the way I see it, I think I may say here later, is that success is what's made while you're making other business plans. Because the primary thing is going out there and trying something and eventually making it. So you have to plan for the long haul. Everything seems to take 3 to 5 times longer than you ever expected. If you're really stupid like I was when I started trying to do something with real innovation, some kind of disruptive technology that's 10 years ahead of its time, well, it'll probably take you 10 years. So you have to be able to hunker down and survive through that storm and believe that eventually you're going to be successful. If you're doing something more of an incremental improvement, it's just a more straightforward business case, it still takes you 3 to 4 years before you really have any kind of income coming back in. And if you're looking for getting to that revenue sooner, it's the service industry or sale of goods. Those are the type I've found you can get a lot quicker to that. And the shortest way is, buy a franchise and do it better than other people. That's some of the most successful financially that I've known were just franchisees. They just did them better, picked the right locations, did them smarter, and made a lot of money. So once you put yourself out there, like I said, you now have to hang in there somehow. The question is, do you quit your day job, or you just tighten your belt, or find some other source of income? Because you need to hang in there until you make it through. And while you're going through all this, the one thing to remember, it's usually not as bad as it seems, though sometimes it's worse. It's my experience at this point is I have nerves of steel. If somebody called me right at this moment and said, the plant just burned down, 10 people are dead, and you're bankrupt, I would probably say, okay, I'll call you in the morning, we'll see what we do about it. Because I have been through them all. To give you one example, my first big project in the offshore oil business was with British Petroleum and Technip and a consortium of all the oil companies. And in this one, we were supplying a part that one of the most functional component was just a piece of rubber, nothing too wildly high-tech. And because it had been a response to an emergency in the industry, the project was run in reverse. First, we told them what we had, and we started building it. Then they went out and they started writing specifications based on what we had. And then they actually engineered it to see if it would work. So we had delivered $1 million worth of product, and we were awaiting payment on it, and right around that time they started setting up actually doing their final testing program with specifications we'd never seen. And on a Friday afternoon, we get a call from a man from Eastern Europe who had set up our test, and he'd left a message on the chief of technology for BP and a bunch of other people saying, and he said, I set up your test, and it tore up big time. And by the way, I'll be on vacation for a week. So he goes back to Poland, and we get an angry call at midnight from the guys at BP and Technip saying, what the heck is this project? We're going to sue you for everything you're worth. And my business partner and I were planning, to move to an island or something until it blew over. And we spent 2 fruitless days calming them down. We had a guy from Technip came in with a piece of rubber he found alongside the road and said, look, rubber's crap. We knew we should have never done this. And in the end, on Monday morning, we get a hold of the guy in Poland, and he says, yeah, go look, it tore up great. I said, what do you mean? He says, yeah, it did a very good job. I ran it twice as far as it needed to go, and it didn't tear it, and didn't do anything wrong. And it was just a poor use of a phrase that had caused me about 100 gray hairs, a year of my life, and Lord knows what else. On the other hand, once upon a time, I got convinced to go in on an online auto dealership that had some new way to do it. It was owned by a friend, or going to be run by a friend of my old business partner. He'd known him 30 years. Their children had gone to school together. It could be who could be more trustable in this world? We put $500,000 in to start buying him inventory, and kept it relatively loose. He's a friend of the family, okay? So I just looked at inventory every month. I looked at the cash in the bank, and I looked at the receivables, and everything seemed fine. Then one day we noticed one of the cars didn't have our name on the title. We thought that was a little strange. And what it turned out was he had become a cocaine addict somewhere along the line, and he had been selling off all of our vehicles, replacing them with other people's in our inventory, and we were the better part of $1 million in the hole. So sometimes the big ones aren't as bad as you think they're going to be. Sometimes the little ones are worse than you could ever expect.